Good afternoon and welcome to the Chamber Talk Show, where, of course, we talk all things mental health. I am Dr. Tamika Manning,
And I am Dr. April Givens.
and today we're joined by Miss Brianna Nijay, who is an author, poet, and we're going to, of course, let her talk about why she's here. Very important topic today. Stay tuned. All right, welcome back. All right, today we're going to actually talk about a very serious subject. What a better time than never to talk about it. We're going into spring break. We got a lot of kids at home this week. I'm an educator, Dr. April. She's a therapist and a psychotherapist. And of course, we have an author here today, just here to talk about, teen suicide and teen suicide prevention, and you being an advocate. Just kind of talk to us and tell us a little bit about your background.
So I started teaching youth. Well, excuse my voice, I'm kind of congested now. But I started teaching youth very young. Something I really wanted to get into. I don't even know why. It was just something that was in me. And so when I was 16, I started teaching at my church. But before that, I forgot what it's called, where you have to get a certain amount of community service hours when you're in high school. And I knew I wanted my community service hours to be dedicated to helping at-risk youth. I wanted to get into the foster care system, actually, at that time. But I couldn't. There wasn't any opportunity. So I ended up kind of helping out a different organization that helped out refugees. So that was cool. Because I'm from Maryland, PG County to be exact, so it was in D.C. And so from there, just teaching youth at my church. And then I began to actually do more mentorship through different programs. And one of my most favorite and the one that was dearest to my heart is CASA, Court Appointed Special Advocates, because like I said, from the beginning, I wanted to get in the foster care system. And because I always had an issue with it, just hearing other people's stories, of the rejection, of the overlooking of the foster care, the over medicating sometimes other foster care people, and also the abuse, sexual, mental, verbal. And so I wanted to learn more about it, because I believe like you can have an issue from a distance, but when you actually get in, you get to learn more about how things is actually operating. And it was a very eye opener for me to see, like from the DSS point of view, overworked, too many cases to actually focus on a case. And so I didn't see that before. And I'm like, so I get, the importance of having a advocate for foster youth that's dedicated to that youth or to those siblings to help them, know what their rights are. If the judge, call upon them to speak on their behalf. So those are the things I got into very early on. And now, since I moved to Dallas, it's just, like I said, this is my calling. So I've been here less than a year, and I've already been a part of a different mentor program of a high school in Richardson. And, just teaching youth and helping youth the best I can, and wherever I'm needed.
Right.
So how did you get involved with teens? I guess let's talk about more about your book when it's talking about the suicides, like teen suicide. Like, why did you write the book, and where did the idea come from? Or have you worked with a lot of teens who have committed suicide?
It came from my own personal story. So from the age of 5, I didn't know anything about the suicide, but I knew I didn't want to be on earth anymore. And those thoughts was just there. And so from the age of 5, I would have those thoughts. From about the age of 9, 10, I began to attempt. And so, but then while I'm in middle school and high school, I had female friends who at the time both, confided in me for some reason that they were molested by their uncle. And so, and then they was also struggling with suicidal ideation because of it. Also trying to tell their mom and not believing them. And so from my own personal story, and then from the friends that I had throughout my many years, and knowing what their story were, and how there was an internal cry while we're in school that a lot of teachers didn't see, that their own family members didn't see, right? And like I made honor roll my entire educational career, right? But you would not know that I go home and I would abuse things like Aleve PMs or Advil PMs, whatever the case may be, or whatever I can, get my hand on at the time that was available to me. Or I started drinking at a very young age to try to cope with what I was dealing with. And so when I wrote the book that has to do with suicide specifically, is Grief, which is being republished out and it's not available just yet. It was from my own story.
Wow.
And of course incorporate other stories from my childhood, but it's just like I don't think people realize how suicide starts as a thought. And it's a thought that you just can't seem to get rid of. And like for me at night it got worse. It was just like at night, die. Like I don't want to be here. And I couldn't shake it, right? To the point that I used to create my own fantasies of different ways and different methods that either I can kill myself or get involved in a situation where someone would have to actually kill me. And so that's how I began to write.
I've never heard a story like that before. So chemically, and just talking from a therapist standpoint, what is it that causes someone's brain to do something like that? Because I'm looking here, it says suicide is the leading cause of death among people aged 15 to 24. And now 10 years before, it wasn't as bad as it is today. I want to have those questions answered. I mean, how do we look at it from a chemical standpoint?
Well, it just all depends. I mean, it's a chemical imbalance. There's a lot of different things. It can be low serotonin levels, like all of these things that can cause your brain to just go haywire. So, especially when you start to have those intrusive thoughts like that, medication is something that will definitely help, as well as therapy, to be able to understand where are those thought patterns coming from, and what actually triggers those thoughts in you. What has happened in your life to where you feel like that this is my exit. I don't want to be here anymore.
Wow. Okay. So I work with teenagers. I'm a high school assistant principal, and I see the highs and I see the lows, and I see kids that are medicated. I see kids that probably need to be medicated. But you talked about it a little bit earlier, Brianna, how some of the kids, even in the foster care system, are medicated too much. They're over medicated. Speak to that, because you said that was one of your concerns.
So it was a big issue. So when I got on this particular case, it was with a 17-year-old Black male. I went to his IEP meeting, and I'm not going to imply that a white person don't know Black culture, but I just want to give you pretty much the scene. I went to his IEP meeting. There was nothing but white people at his IEP meeting. The Black youth is speaking. To me, he's speaking. To them, it's aggression. And I'm like, maybe this is a cultural difference. And so one of the things, my supervisor was a Black lady, she said, one of the things I want you to do is try to convince him, and also talk to his foster dad, hey, you should maybe go back on your medication. And to me, I don't know to do yet to even try to convince him of that. So anyway, and also at the IEP meeting, they also suggested, hey, maybe you should think about your, taking your anger meds, your behavioral medication. Long story short, when I went to go meet with him and his foster dad at their home, the foster dad said he acts better when he's not on the meds. He tells me the kid, the teen, he said, I don't like how I feel when I'm on the meds. And so I go back and I tell my supervisor, hey, who am I to tell this kid, you need to take your medication? He has a therapist. And he's 17 years old. And if he don't want to take it, and if the foster dad who's with him 24/7, so to speak, is saying, hey, I don't like how he is. He's more like a zombie when he's on this meds than he is. And like when I was, meet with this young gentleman, knowing his story too, knowing his story, I can see where the aggression would come from.
Mhm.
So when he's speaking and he's telling people at the IEP meeting how he feel, and if you feel as though you're not listening to him, okay, he's gonna get an attitude. I don't see, I'm not getting what you're getting, and so that was one of my issues as well, um, within that situation particularly.
So let's speak to it. Let's have a shift here because you talk about a part of your bio. You talk about how you work with teens and you tell them to change their mindset. That's what we're all about. Even when Dr. April talked about serotonin levels, and of course, I always tout, working out or being healthy or moving and, eating healthier, having a better diet. But talk to me about what do you do with them and how do you coach them into changing their mindset, into it maybe being a shift there?
So number one thing I like to do is first try to get to know the youth. I want to know their personality, right, before I just start trying to tell you what to do. So we can build that bridge of communication that's healthy and there's trustworthiness. Because one of the things I've learned with dealing with people generally, but especially with youth, is that if I don't know you like that, don't think you finna just you
Right.
finna just tell me anything, right? And so that's one of the things that I do. And I'm gonna give you a case. I had a mentor that was not mentor, mentee that was 10 years old. Going back to the medication piece, she counted off to me 10 different medications. And about five of them was for headaches. And two or three for behaviors. And she was 10 years old. And I had an issue with that too, from a parent situation, an ethical situation. Why you need all this medication? Nevertheless, she didn't like her father. And then there was an identity issue because she was mixed. And then she lived with her white mom. And but the attitude she gave her mom and the anger and aggression wasn't something that she ever gave me, right? So early on, I like to establish, this is what I would like to do. This is who I am, and I want to get to know you. And so what I tell them to do is what you have to be able to be willing to write down like a goal. What you want your mind to be. You want peace? It ain't gonna just happen overnight. You want happiness? You want joy? Do you like this attitude that you give? Do you know why you have these attitudes? And we'll have these type of conversations, right? And I want them to be able to get it out because a lot of youth don't feel as though they're listened to, right? And so for me to take the back seat is another like method, I guess. Is just listen to them, and then we can start working on minor things,
I
right?
love it. I love it. Socially, there's so much out here competitiveness when we're talking about social media. I was thinking maybe that's another reason why more teens commit suicide. You have all these supermodels, you have all these IG models, and then kids are able to see that. So, does that play a role? Do you counsel people sometimes, Dr. A, that have identity issues?
Well, yeah, I mean they do, but I think it's more or less not so much social media. Social media, yes, is a component. It does play a role, but it also their environment
Mm.
plays a huge role. It depends on where the child is growing up because I tell people all the time, it's important to be supportive of kids because if you're 9, 10, or 11 or 12 years old and you're growing up in a toxic environment where you see your mom getting abused or dad's drinking all the time, these kids have nowhere to go. Sometimes they don't have a grandparent or an auntie or a cousin where they can go over their house and spend the night, and so that's all you have, and so you're stuck because those are your parents and you don't have a choice. And so kids go within, they go within and they try to figure out something, but they are just really, depressed, anxious, all these different things because of what they see in their environment, and they don't have a choice. They don't have a way out.
Wow, that's a
Mm.
really good way to put it. I know as we move to a close, we're all authors. We all have books out. What really pushed you, Brianna, to actually write the book that you wrote?
I needed a way to really share with people what's going on, right? Whether I was in high school, I was in college, it was the same thing. And Dr. Given, you just spoke about it, being stuck. And when you feel stuck and there's no way out, sometimes you either want to look for, a coping mechanism like drugs, sex, relationship, alcohol,
Yeah.
or you want a way out, right? And it's and when you feel that claustrophobia, it's like I got to do it, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm not good specifically is about when I ask you, anybody asks you, how are you? I automatically respond, I'm good. And I want people to like think about this.
Mhm.
Why am I lying? And how often am I lying to myself, trying to act and fake like I'm good when I'm not? And it's okay. I don't got to tell you my business and say I'm not doing well. I can just be, it's a freedom in just being honest and I'm not doing well.
Yes. I love it.
Mhm.
I love it so much. I love that. And it's just transparency sometimes. And like you said, you don't have to tell, just know that I'll be okay. I'm not good right now in the moment, but I will be okay. A shift in the mindset. Dr. April also has a book that you all can go out and you can get. It's a journal. Dr. April, you want to talk about your book?
Well, it's a self-help journal. It's called Strategies and Tips to Improve Your Overall Well-Being. And so it gives you an opportunity to free write, but it also has tips and tools, men's health, women's health, affirmations. It has tips for moms, tips for dads, like all of these different things in their anger management techniques, different things that you can learn about yourself. And in the process of learning, you can free write and use that space just to write your thoughts and your feelings and your emotions.
I absolutely love it. I'm an author as well. And of course, I preach get moving, get fit holistically, mind, body, spirit. It's a work for all of us. It's something that we all got to work on every day when we wake up. It also talks about positive affirmations of waking up and being grateful for what we do have and just focusing on those things and those goals. Thank you so much for coming on to share your story with us. Much appreciated. Hopefully we can have you back again at some point because we talk all things mental health. We're always coming on the Chamber Talk Show. We're getting ready to probably do somewhat of a shift, but we focus on mental health from a holistic standpoint because it's so important. And like you said, so many people committing suicide, so many people going through so many things, especially post coronavirus and the pandemic and everything that we have all experienced in that time frame. But we again appreciate you coming on. Hopefully we will see you again soon. Thank you, Dr. April. I just, always good to spar with you guys and talk to you and come on and just talk to people about life. And I think people really appreciate it, and we definitely appreciate you joining us as well.